tap mode deployment options. There is a firewall. You want to use your firewall as a tap mode. You don't want to change your existing connection. You just need to use your Palo Alto as a monitoring firewall, monitoring the current environment. So how will you deploy your firewall to monitor the current environment? You just need to connect the tap interface to the switching span port. So it will not be functioning any other function except the monitoring.
Okay, so it's not really a firewall at this point then, right?
Yeah, it's not really a firewall at this point.
It's just like monitoring device.
Monitoring device. So all the functions will be monitor of the environment, but it will not be intercepting the traffic. It is not creating any rule and nothing. It will just monitor the traffic. How will we adding this? If we are adding the span port of the switch to the firewall interface, any of the interface.
Okay. But why will anybody use the Palo Alto device to do that? I mean, you could use other devices that are made for tap.
Actually, we will use the Palo Alto device. That's a nice question, but we don't want to change our current environment, but want to monitor everything which we have in the Palo Alto, right? I suppose we want to monitor the SSL policies, decryption, DDoS attacks. We want to check the URL filtering. We want to check anything related to the current environment, but we don't want to change our environment. Right? Because it will take a lot of efforts, it will take a lot of manpowers. So we just want to we will just add the firewall using our interface and span port from the current environment and any of the interface from the firewall. So it will just start working as a monitoring firewall.
Got it. Okay.
Passively, this firewall will just monitor the traffic passively. And we have virtual wire mode. Virtual wire is kind of in the wire. I mean, it will just start giving you the function of few functions of Palo Alto. It will be like this. So virtual wire, no routing switching performed by virtual router. Nothing will be performed, only interfaces. Suppose this is L3. This is L3 firewall. This is also L3 routing switching firewall, anything. So we don't want to disturb these routing switching anything, right?
Okay.
We will just keep the firewall in between these things just to get some functions feature used by Palo Alto firewall. Suppose this firewall doesn't have URL filtering application ID, so we will just deploy this firewall by using the interface from this router. Suppose this is L3 router, L3 switch, and connect this to the interface, Palo Alto interface, and then connecting to this router, directly connect to this interface. So there is no routing switching required. It is just adding by Ethernet 1x4 to this interface and Ethernet 1x6 to this interface. So ingress interface.
What does it add to the two routers though? Like what functionality?
So it will add a lot of function. Let me show you which functionality. Except, so it is like upgraded version of tap mode.
Okay.
So tap mode only had monitoring part, nothing else, right? So now suppose you don't want to change anything in your current environment again, but want to use few features for the security. So it is supporting app ID, content ID, user ID, decryption, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so it is considered as a bump in the wire. We can just deploy this firewall using the interfaces only. We don't need to have routing and out IPs and VLAN IPs, and don't need to have deployment of L3 routing and switching. Right. So we can use this app ID, content ID. So virtual wire deployment simplifies firewall installation and configuration because you can insert the firewall into an existing topology without assigning MAC or IP to the interface. You can just add your interfaces to the Palo Alto and the devices which is already there in the environment. So you can just add the firewall using your using the Ethernet cable and it will start working.
Okay, got it.
And you will start using the app ID function, security policy, content ID, user ID decryption by installing the Palo Alto firewall in the environment, right?
Okay.
So what else we can do? So we know, right? We know tap mode, we know virtual wire mode. Now we will go to L3 mode, L2 mode. L2. So L2 is kind of where we need to have L2 mode. We will need to have MAC address, VLANs. So layer 2 is configured when switching is required. So L2 is related to security, right? Right.
Yes,
So
yes.
if we are deploying the firewall, you need to have MAC address. You need to configure VLANs between this switching and routers. So you will need to have few things. It's generally L3 switches. So it supports feature like app ID, user ID, content ID, QoS, SSL decryption. And last but not the least is L3. L3 is related to everything, complete use of firewall. And then we need to have IP address assigned. It supports IP addressing configuration. So these are the deployment of firewalls.
Okay.
Okay. So how many deployments we have? We have TAP, we have layer 2, we have layer 3, we have vWire. We have 4 kind of deployment.
Okay. What's the fourth one again? It's the after layer 2 deployment is what?
It's layer 3.
Layer 3, just layer 3. And layer 3 is between
Layer 3 is a new configuration completely. Need to have new everything will be new. It is like new. It is not adding. We are not adding anything to the existing environment. It is completely new environment using layer 3. So most of the organizations are using this only just because they don't want to intercept anything with other existing environment. If they are using Palo Alto, they want to use Palo Alto completely, right? Full features of Palo Alto firewall. They don't want to compromise while they are going to purchase and want to implement in the environment. So now you know, right? So let's go to the firewall. So now you know, right? Tap interface doesn't need to have any interface. So tap interface only need to have tap interface. Tap zone only need to have tap interface. Let me create a tap interface first. So I'm creating a tap interface. I'm creating layer Ethernet 1x3 as a tap. I told you, right? I can create any interface as a tap interface. So I'm creating a 1x3 as a tap interface. Type tap. Network flow none. I'm just adding it. So now I'll have a zone as a tap zone. So this is what I'm explaining it here. So tap zone will have tap interface only. Virtual wire zone will have virtual wire interface only. We cannot align any other interfaces. So now I'm adding zone.
We cannot what? I'm sorry. The last thing you said. We cannot.
We cannot add any interface to any zone. Tap interface will have tap zone only. Tap zone.
Okay.
So we will have tap interface. Tap zone and interface will be tap. So you can see 1x3 now.
Yes. Yes.
Let me commit it. Only then it will be visible, right? Commit changes made by me. So it is still running in the background. You can go to task and see. See, right? So I can close it here, no issues. Once it will be completed, we will just check. So now you know the meaning of this. Tab zone will have tab interface only. Whatever the
Yes.
interface we will align as a tab, it will be there in the tab zone. So
Okay.
virtual wire zone I have virtual interface only. Tunnel zone, no interface assigned. You can available starting in PAN-OS tunnel encapsulation. So we will check it later while working on this.
But once you make the Palo Alto firewall be a tab zone and used only for tapping purpose, you can't use it as a firewall anymore, right?
No, no, not in tab zone only, tapping purpose, like monitoring purpose.
Okay, so
There is no function will be visible only except dashboard and ACC and monitor.
yes,
No other functions will be visible.
but what I'm trying to ask is that if you say that this Palo Alto firewall, I'm just gonna use it for tapping purpose, can you also use it as a firewall? Like you can create a different, so it can be used for all this different method of deployment, or only one deployment type?
No. All the method of deployment, it's up to you. If you want to use the firewall as a
Oh,
tap purpose, if you want to use the firewall as a virtual wire deployment, if you want to
on
use
the same Palo Alto device, the same
on
box?
the yes, on the same box, but you need
Oh,
to create
okay.
multiple interfaces. You need to align it, right? You can use that box in your current environment. Suppose you are using your box in tap mode. Yeah, and now you are fed up. You are completely fed up, and now you want to use that firewall in a virtual wire. So you need to install that firewall in between the two devices which are already there in the environment. Then you can use it, all the functions related to SSL decryption and NAT and everything, right? And now you want to use that
Okay.
complete firewall. So you can remove other existing environment and deploy that as a L3. Right? Firewall is completely free for you. You have already purchased and everything, every functions you have purchased. Now you just have to use it according to your requirement.
Yeah, okay, got it.
Good, right? So we understand that. Now let's just we now know how to create it. We have creating zones, have created, we can create these all zones and we can assign these interfaces. This is our lab. So if you would have lab, I will ask you to create all this.